Hello and welcome back to the Burkitt encounter. It's been a little while since I've been here. I think if I look on YouTube at the channel, it'll tell me it's been 2 months. How it's been 2 months is beyond me. It feels like 5 minutes since I last did one, but I've been very busy in my defence. Busy working, taking pictures, having holidays, having some time out with my missus and family, and it's given me an opportunity, I guess, to take a little breather from the podcast. Didn't do that intentionally, but, you know, I didn't want to force myself to come back and force an episode out. I wanted to wait until I got something to say. And as ever, I've been paying attention and mooching around, seeing what the world's doing and what's happening in the world. And as ever, there's all sorts of shit going down. And just this morning, I was reading, I was looking on Flipboard and I was looking at photography stories, see what was going on. And one of the headlines was a year in photography. And I thought maybe over the next couple of podcasts I can look back at the year in photography that I've had. It's been a slightly different year this year because I decided to open my own studio again, start doing a bit of family stuff, start doing a bit of corporate stuff alongside the stuff I love to do, you know, the creative stuff. And that's kind of panning out slowly but surely good. So maybe I'll talk about some of that in this episode today. But really, the main gist of this podcast today was prior to going on holiday to Ireland in October. I was thinking about how as photographers we try to continue to make the best work we can. And I spoke about before how I only make work for me. If other people, clients included, like it, that's a bonus. But generally speaking, I'm making work for me to love and like. And in thinking about that, I was thinking about how do you keep yourself fresh? How do you keep yourself not reinvented, but not doing the same stuff so your work doesn't become stale and samey? And for me, it kind of that happens if you're proactive, if you're doing stuff, if you're looking for work and looking for shoots and doing creative stuff. But I think also what you need to do every now and again is throw yourself out of your comfort zone. So what I decided to do prior to going on holiday to Ireland at the end of October was try and shoot outside of my comfort zone. And that's more difficult than it sounds, because instinctively you revert back to things that you were already doing because you know they work, and you follow sequences. I've talked about this in other podcasts, that you follow in sequences because you know it works. And if you're making work for a client, for example, you want whatever you're doing to work. You don't want to get to the end and go, my God, naff that up, what have I done? So it's difficult sometimes to get out of your comfort zone and do something different to what you're already doing, to try and create something fresh, put a new edge to your work and your outlook on your work. But I was thinking about it as I was doing it and as I was shooting, and I'll show you some pictures as we go along. The comfort zone doesn't have to be as dramatic as what it might sound. So an example might be you're a portrait photographer, in a studio with a grey backdrop, 125th of a second, f11, 100 ISO, good lighting. You can get your picture. You can get the picture of the person like you want. The connection depends on how they emote and what they give you, but from an aesthetic point of view, if that's what you do and that's what you're good at and that's what people buy into, it's difficult to get out of that comfort zone, because what are you going to do? You're going to suddenly go, I'll tell you what, I'll shoot everything at f2.8 and make everything really, really blurred. That's not really getting out of comfort zone, is it? That's just changing an approach. Getting out of your comfort zone in a portrait perspective might be something like, don't use flash at all. Find a big window and sit near a window and just use natural light. Restrict yourself to 400 ISO max like we used to get on film. Alright, I know some did higher than that, but generally speaking, 400 ISO. And see if you can make pictures as good as what your studio pictures are, like that. So that's like more comfort zone. For me, the comfort zoning thing was more about trying to approach my photography outside of the studio in a more upfront and in-your-face way. And what I mean by that is, I mean potentially street photography, but not just taking pictures of people on the street, but buildings, landscapes, trying to come at them a bit more forthright and a bit more in its face, rather than hanging back and waiting for perfection, which I am guilty of in the main. So when I went to Ireland with my lovely wife and in-laws at the end of October, I kind of tried to approach the street photography I did there. So I did a bit of it, not a lot of it, and the landscape photography and just the incidental bits of photography I took. I tried to approach them in a bit more honest kind of way by not shying away from the fact that I've got a camera and I'm pointing it at somebody, or pointing it at the landscape and waiting for everything to just sit nicely. And I don't know whether I achieved that or not. I found myself while I was doing it hanging back a bit, and we call it Yorkshire term neshing out, backing out, yellow bellying it, and going back to my ultimate comfort zone, which I don't think didn't help me really learn anything new. I got lots of pictures like I'd always take, and I got a few probably that I wouldn't have normally took. But it was an interesting exercise in trying to get out of the comfort zone, because, like I've said previously, quite often in the comfort zone, you're not making bad work, you're just making the same work, and then you become like a photocopier. And that's one of my love-hate relationship things I have with product photography. You become like a photocopier. Plonk, shoot, plonk, shoot. You know, and sometimes portrait photography, any kind of photography, can become like that if you're not careful and you don't try and break yourself out of that. Another way to do it would be to have a different camera, for example. So when we went to Ireland, I took with me my Canon R6. I took my 6D. I took my Sony A6400, and I also took a poor man's version of a Pentax K1000 film camera. So I had 4 weapons of choice the whole time I was in Ireland, and strangely enough, I took 3,000 pictures on the R6, about 5 pictures on the film camera, and that was it, and a handful on my phone. So even though I had all those choices, I still kind of kept myself in the comfort zone. A couple of reasons for that. One, we travelled a lot, so we didn't stay anywhere long. We were like, day to day, different county. And the idea of juggling all that kit and selecting it for the day was difficult. That's my excuse. It's a poor excuse, but it's the reason I didn't shoot so much in other bits of kit. So I just found myself going for the camera that was kind of primed and ready to go all the time. And I kind of, when I got back and looked through the pictures, although I got lots of pictures I was happy with, I was disappointed I'd not shot some more film, actually. Because I'm an advocate of old school shooting film, and that really does put you back out your comfort zone, because there's none of that looking, have I got a shot, did I get the shot? You're thinking ahead, I will have got the shot because I know my camera, I know my, my settings and all that. So I was a bit annoyed at myself that I was too lazy to get into more of that. But I did shoot a lot of pictures. Let me just find the folder now. I'll go through some... What did I call the folder? Ireland. I called it Era, but I can't find it. Travels, that's it. I made a subfolder called Travels. Here we go, Travels, Ireland. So if I look in the raw folder, there's 1,094 pictures in the raw folder, or files, so about 1,000 pictures, not as many as I thought. And out of that, what did I edit? Let me find the right folder. Edits. Edits. I did 228, so 226. Yeah, so 220. So I've worked on about a 20% ratio there, which is actually more than what I would normally work on. And some of the pictures in this folder are kind of like, they're not what you call pro shots or creative shots. They're just snapshots of stuff I saw. Some pictures of the in-laws and whatnot, walking about. Because they like, obviously they're used to, if they're on their own, they have to take the old selfie. But because me and Kirsty, they were able to get them some nice pictures of them posing. So our first port of call, actually, the day we set off, we went across. We sailed from Holyhead in Wales to Dublin, and I've been through Holyhead a million times. When I lived in Ireland, when I was a musician in a former life, we used to travel that way a lot. So I kind of felt I knew Holyhead, and But I was bitterly disappointed that when we got there, we were made to feel about as welcome as a fart in a spacesuit, because I don't know, every pub we went in, it was like what's that pub called on American Werewolf? Is it Slaughtered Lamb? Where they walk in and Brian Glover's character, you made me miss my dart. It was all a bit like that, and we were trying to get a bite to eat, and nowhere was doing food. Everywhere was closed, and we ended up in one pub, which ended up actually. It looked a bit like the Wrong Turn, but the guys running the bar, a couple of guys from Liverpool running the bar, and the beer and the food were great, so we ended up in there for the afternoon. But all we had as an experience, I didn't take any pictures of it with my camera because I just felt rebuffed. It literally felt like the Wrong Turn, and I don't know Holyhead that well. The people might be really good, but our experience on that day was quite bleak. So already didn't get off to a very good start, and then the apartment we booked for that night turned out to be a building site as well. So that's another story. So, but we got to Dublin. Second day we arrived in Dublin. We sailed across to Dublin, and I've been through Dublin before, but I never stayed. And you hear lots of good stories about Dublin. So we got there mid-morning, and about lunchtime actually, I think it was, and we decided to go and see a few sites, do a few of the museums, and we were just walking the streets, and it was a bit overcast and a bit rainy, and you can see from this picture in front of me that lots of kind of like holiday makers like us, tourists around. But I just found it interesting how it was quite calm, even though it was overcast and rainy. It was quite calm. There was no like hustle and bustle, which surprised me. I guess it was a Monday, so I guess it was never going to be like ultra busy, but just on at the side of the River Liffey here, there's some interesting stuff and some interesting characters, and I just thought that these guys who had come, I don't know whether they were here on holiday, short stay, or whatever. I think the lady with the umbrella wasn't with them. I think she was passing through, but it just made me kind of quite like that. And it wasn't my normal shooting from the hip shot. I just put the camera up and took a picture. So I guess I was a little out of my comfort zone there. And I'm always wary doing street photography and doing that because I'm a bit chicken. Like I said, I'm a yellow belly. But they just walked past and they carried on, and I thought, it's quite nice that. I mean, it's not a Pulitzer Prize winning photo. It's not, it's not going to get on the cover of Time magazine or National Geographic. But I just think from an interesting characters, people shopping on the phone, umbrella because it's miserable, hat and scarf, time of year, last week of October. I thought it was quite a nice kind of jumble of stuff, and an interesting kind of like moment of our first visit to Dublin, which turns out we are going to go back to Dublin and get merrily drunk for a weekend at some point soon. But Dublin, like I said, I've travelled through it a lot of times, often on a bus or often in the tour bus with the guys, and never really stopped and looked in it. And it reminded me of Liverpool quite a bit. As you know, I might have said before, me and Kirsty go to Liverpool, like it's our favourite place in the world. And Dublin did remind me of me, similar kind of decor, similar kind of people, similar kind of welcome feeling. And I guess a lot of that will be because the Irish have a big link to the Irish, Liverpoolian Scousers have a big link to Ireland. And it kind of felt like that. It kind of felt like we were, in a familiar place, even though we weren't. And so we did the Epic at first, and we just walked around, and I was just looking at characters and seeing what I could find, seeing who I could see. And I know, from a technical perspective, if you look at these pictures, if I'm looking at this family here, for example, just the interesting kid's face for me, the dummy, and I was just kind of nonchalantly going along, and the parents are kind of like doing the Costa thing and looking on the phone probably to see where they're going. I mean, the exposure's crap and the background's crap and a bit, it's not a technically good picture, but again, I'm just looking for whip it up to the eye, take a picture. I was kind of semi-hoping the kid might look at me, but he didn't, and they just wheeled past. But again, just trying to capture interesting moments that aren't as flyby as what they would normally be for me, because I would normally shoot from the hip, try and do it without people seeing. But on this occasion, I did a few where I stopped, put my camera to my eye and took a picture. This is another one. And again, two characters. I don't know if they're a couple, whether they just happened to be walking close together. I guess they probably were a couple, weren't they? But they're two kind of really juxta. I can't say people, because young lady on the left looks quite casual in approach, and the guy on the right looks kind of like, almost like his Del Boy, only full enough. You kind of got that like semi-professional thing going on, but clearly not. Flat cap, big 1980s yuppie coat on. Looks slightly dishevelled, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I just found them interesting couple as they're walking towards me. Looked like opposites attract kind of thing. So I like that. And again, not technically a great picture, but thinking out my comfort zone, trying to get something something that resembled a slightly out of comfort zone street shot. This one I did shoot from the hip, just because I thought it might be better than him looking at me or catching me as I passed. And again, this guy, I mean, this one, when you look at it close, it's kind of really out of focus, so you could tell I was moving pretty quickly. But I just, again, a little juxtaposition. The old guy walking past, young guy smoking a reefer or whatever he's got. Is it a reefer or is it one of those god awful stupid bloody vape things? But whatever it is, just mooching past and trying to capture moments. Another one here. This was shot from the hip again. Me straight back into my comfort zone. Interesting that. Did a couple out of the comfort zone, then nipped straight back into it. Young lady walking on the phone. Don't you hate that when people have conversations out on the phone? You've got a phone, you've got a speaker, you can have a private conversation. Now, keep your conversation to yourself. People walk around like, like Don Jolly used to do with that big mobile phone. Hey, Mum, you alright? Guess what's that? I just don't want to know. Not interested in your conversation. Keep it to yourself. And it's even worse when you're in a confined space like a cafe or a pub and they got a loudspeaker. It's like, everybody else doesn't want to hear your conversation, love. Have your conversation. Bugger off outside and have it all. Turn it down. But she walked past doing that. So I took a picture of her because I can. But that annoyed me. That. Some, interesting stuff around Dublin, as you can see. Some interesting old buildings and graffiti. And we went to Dublin. We went in the Guinness Museum at Dublin. And wow, what an experience that was. I mean, apart from drinking the best pint of Guinness I've ever had in my life. There's kind of like, because it's indoors and it's quite dully lit, but really interesting features. So trying to capture pictures of people and features was difficult. I mean, we're talking lots of ISO and grain and stuff. So I've done a bit of work on these to clean them up afterwards. But I think they're interesting because when you see people queuing or waiting for something and they're kind of like they're a bit fed up or they're pissed off or the parents are taking forever or the queuing, all that kind of stuff. As much as people were enjoying it, people were clearly fed up of hanging about also. And this guy's one of those hangers about, and I just felt it was nice to get that mixed of kind of like all that horrible light that's in there, a little bit of daylight seeping through, and the kind of neon and strip lights and stuff. I just found that quite an interesting picture. Again, kind of semi-shot from the hip, but not. I was holding the phone out. It could have seen me doing it. I wasn't trying to hide. I was doing, but I held it down low. I've got a bad back and I struggle to creep up and down, so I do tend to sometimes cheat and just hold the phone out and use the screen for this kind of shot, and that's what I did there. So technically I was out of my comfort zone because I was making it obvious I was taking the picture. I just found that an interesting shot. Sometimes as well, when you zoom in and look at stuff afterwards, step inside and discover how the brewing team here at St James's Gate make each and every drop of Guinness so special. True story. And the sample Guinness that you get, well, you pay for it as part of your ticket, you get a Guinness at the end, was, well, delightful. Again, just interesting people walking around. Not quite sure what she was doing, itching her ear. She could have been itching something worse, I suppose, couldn't she? But interesting picture, juxtaposed, that's the word, isn't it? Against the industry. I've got a fascination with people eating. I've got that disease, and I can never remember what it's called, but the disease where when people are eating, you just want to cave their head in with a shovel. When you can hear people chewing. In fact, it's worse than that for me. People breathing, people yawning, people alive quite often. Once it gets in my brain, I just want to shovel them, cave their heads in. So I've got a kind of thing about food. Well, as you can tell, I like my food. But also, people eating, it just winds me off the clock. It just absolutely fucking annoys the life out of me. So whenever I see somebody eating like this, I take a picture to try and dampen my annoyance. Props in the hope that they will see me. Again, this is shot from eye level, so I wasn't idle. In fact, I was shooting. But it's another moment, isn't it? Somebody ramming the mouthful of food. Then the husband, I don't know what he's saying to other partners. I don't know what they're saying to her. But again, it's just interesting. In the middle of this big Guinness store with a history Guinness all around it, sat scranning food down the pile. Quite like that. This was the entrance to the bit where you got to taste the Guinness, and again, it's just that crazy place, and all these crazy lights and people, and I could see how it was like bouncing off people's bald heads and stuff. So I thought a little bit of top and backlit makes for a nice picture. Again, it's not technically great, and again, it wasn't shot from the hip. I just put it up to my eyes while walking through. But it's an interesting, looks like they're off to the death camp or somewhere. This was waiting for the sample Guinness. I was just looking around the room at seeing what people were doing, and again, people doing interesting things on the board, waiting, hanging about, getting fed up, and also the fish. And the fish is, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. Probably never a truer statement made. So you can see these are just all like mooching around. They're a bit like snapshotty now. But trying to get out of the comfort zone in a context like this, I found not as easy as I thought it might be. Because some street photographers I know, and my favourite street photographers actually are probably the guys that get right in your face. And I think she'd semi-seen what I was doing and was a bit annoyed, but didn't quite have the cojones to eyeball me. And again, waiting for the beer, I just put the camera down on the counter and started taking pictures. Now this shot I don't remember taking. It's really strange, this one, because I was looking back through, I thought, I don't remember taking that, but it's beautifully composed and it's nice, it's interesting. She's clearly there enjoying the view, looking down on the city and looking out at the mountains where the water comes from for the Guinness. And then Kirsty saw it, my wife Kirsty saw it and said, I took that picture, you bugger. And that's why I didn't remember doing it, because whilst I was waiting to get my Guinness, or I'd gone to the toilet or something, I gave her my camera to hold and she was taking pictures. So it's actually her picture, not mine. But it's a great picture all the same. So I kind of have to own up to the fact that one's not mine. But I think the rest are. And again, I'm just taking pictures of people. You can kind of see the ones where I'm from the hip because they're down looking up. That's one from the hip. But the vast majority of these in here with me just taking pictures. And again, just getting characters. And I think, I don't think I'm ever going to get right out that comfort zone in that respect. I mean, I'll stand my own in any situation. I'll argue the toss with anybody. I'm really good at defending myself in any situation, but I find it difficult to justify poking a camera in somebody's face and taking a picture of them. Always have, always will. And it's a battle I don't think I'm ever going to win. Unless I have an accident and bump my head and change, my personality changes, I think I'm always going to be a bit standoffish when it comes to photographing people right in the face. I did do a little bit of looking up while I was there. My favourite type of building and architecture photography, as you'll know if you look through my portfolio. I love sitting there and just looking up at buildings because nobody ever does. And when you look up at buildings and see what you don't see because you're never looking up, they're just amazing. And that was one of them. This is one of the tallest guys in the place again. Stopped, took a picture. He wasn't that impressed, as you can see, but I wasn't there long enough to care. And then again, just rest of the storehouse, and black and white monos always make a real good, a real good thing to look at. I mean, that's just a beautiful building, isn't it? Hundreds of year old, probably early 1900s actually, or late 18s. But when you see a building like that in black and white, that's the colour. And all those little highlights that you see in colour, the lights that are on inside, lights around the edges, how the lights sit in the brick here and not here, obviously, because it's in shadow. I just love it. And then you make it a black and white conversion, and it just makes you have to look for that kind of stuff. And I just find it so much more interesting. But that's the in-laws again. So we moved on and we spent the week going around Ireland, like I said, and I never really got out of my comfort zone other than when I was photographing hills and not worrying about what people were thinking about what I might be doing. And found a lot of things that I didn't know about Ireland. I thought I knew Ireland well, having lived there in the 90s. and having family from there. But I found lots of things out, particularly about where things were filmed, what things were made. Discovered Saving Private Ryan was filmed there, so we went to see that beach, which was interesting. Trying to make it, trying to see if it looked like what it looked like in the film. It's difficult to see because most of the film shot close up. We went through a small town called Avoca where that show Ballykissangel was filmed in the 90s, and had a pint in Fitzgerald's, which was nice. This is the film which doubled for Home Heart Beach in Saving Private Ryan. And there was a big sign just on the right hand side up here that said, "No rolling down dunes. We're trying to protect the dunes." And there was about 30 kids all rolling down. Kids being kids. So, we ended up on the west coast in Galway, where I'd lived before. And then you come across people who are just crazy, like this lady who clearly loves swimming in the sea in October, autumn. And again, I wasn't trying to hide. I was just taking pictures of her, and she didn't seem to mind. So, out of the comfort zone there, because normally I would have done that from the hip and tried not to be seen doing it. But on this occasion, she seemed very happy just to let me do it. And maybe she liked the fact that she was being noticed. I don't know, but it was definitely a very interesting thing to photograph. Yeah, so interesting. I was telling my wife and in-laws a story about how we lived on that beach for a week when we were in the band back in the 90s, and we decided on a whim just to move county because we heard it was easy to make it there. So we moved from Donegal to Galway and spent a week on a campsite with a tent without an outer cover, so we had to put bin liners on, which is another story. But then we realised we were paying, I don't know, 50 quid a week to stay in this campsite, and there was a beach just round the corner, so we decided to uplift to the beach, and then there's a whole raft of stories come off that, getting in trouble with the old bill and stuff, but that's for another day. But so this little on Galway Bay, Silver Strand, it was just nice to get back there and have a look. But this crazy lady swimming, I mean, I'd only got a 24 105 lens there. I wish I'd got a 400 mil, because that would have been a bit more interesting. But just interesting, to see that people are crazy enough to be swimming in the sea in October. I mean, we were all there with big coats on, trying to keep warm. That's another story again. And then we ended up in Galway. We stayed the night in Galway, and the main drag in Galway is just full of characters. It always was. I know that from when I lived there. And if you look at this picture, never mind the band, if you look at all the people milling around, this guy here, just going about his business, the old guy in the background there, there's people in on the wall, shoppers. I wonder if those two are together, that lady there and that lady there, doing the Abbey Road thing. But money for cans. I mean, the good thing about it is these days you can come across these characters, then you can see, clearly they're called Money for Cans, and they've got an Instagram, so you can go and give them a follow, and you can kind of follow through on that. You can pick up on who they are, what their lives are, what they do outside of this. Are they a proper band? Do they just busk? So it's nice to see that kind of have that continuity, because you never used to get that, did you? If you're in a town or a village on holiday, you'd see them people once, and then that'd probably be it. You'd never see them again. But again, no shooting from the hip. Just, straight up, eye up to camera. And I think if we look at, I've knackered that up. If we look at that lady up there, if I can get this bloody thing to zoom. Where's she gone? I don't know, I thought she might have been looking at me. She's not, she's just nonchalantly looking at the band. They sounded great. Money for Cans. What a great name for a band. And just mooching the streets, camera up to my eyeball. I think sometimes people are used to seeing people take pictures in the street, so they're not so bothered. But I always have this thing that when they see you with a proper camera, whatever the hell that means, they will immediately be pissed off at you for taking a proper photo of them. It's amazing how many pictures you take nowadays in the streets, and people are just on their phones. It's just the thing, isn't it? They're either on the phone, they're about to get the phone out of their pocket. Particularly when you see people start eating, couples, they're always on the phone, or always about to, or just, kind of ignoring each other, which is another juxtaposition, which annoys me. This is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. As me and Kirsty then in the reflection. Catch up with Jesus. Blessed from my head tomatoes. Brilliant. Just love it. beyond funny. You might have had to be there, but it made me chuckle. Again, I'm back to shooting from the hip because I've probably shit myself for some reason. Or maybe I just didn't have my camera. I wear one of those rigs where you got the cameras kind of like fastened to your harness. I don't know what it's called. And so the camera's just hanging down by my waist, so I might have just seen that and took the shot and not reacted any other way. But interesting cyclist, young girl trotting down the street, back to Money for Cans again. This time they got a little fan there dancing. But again, you know, if you look in the background, people stood watching. Quite often wonder why people stand behind people to watch though. Maybe they're on the way somewhere, so that's why they're there, but that always seems a bit strange to me. This guy was a good busker. There's a bit of an insane guy hanging about with him though, trying to talk to you. You know, when people want to talk to you in the street, you know. It brings me back to a conversation I was having a few days ago, because being the bundle of joy and fun I am, you know, when somebody knocks on your door at night and you just relax, you just got sat down at settee, dogs are nice and calm, and some comes and knocks on your door trying to sell you something, they're all full of it, and I just normally would swear a bit and use the word off and tell them to get rid of it. So I think Kirsty got that sick of it. She got sick of me doing that. She bought those stickers for the door that says bugger off, don't knock. But funny enough, people still do. But the other bugbear for me is when people do that when you're coming through the shopping centre or down the street and they're in your face. I just think, leave me alone. If I was king of the world, I would outlaw all that. I know people have got to make a living and things have got to be sold, but harassing people in the street and in their homes has always been one of my biggest bugbears, even before I became old and miserable. So I would outlaw it. And so that guy that was watching the busker that was doing that was really getting on my wick. Absolutely getting on my wick with it. This guy, I'm not quite sure what he was doing, but he was intently looking at his phone, wasn't he? Whatever's going on his phone is his life there. And he's got a pen and a pad, so I'm guessing he was probably some kind of... can't even see what that says. My eyes are knackered. What's he got in his pocket there? Flask. He was clearly some kind of seller or some annoyer of some description. But I quite like that picture because he's intently looking at his phone. And I stopped and took that picture. I did not from the hip like I would normally do. I got my camera there and took the picture. He could clearly see I was taking the picture. But he was more preoccupied in what he was doing on his phone. And I just thought it made for a nice moment, a nice clear moment of in his day. Young girl stood waiting for her parents doing what I still do now, and my wife drags me into a shop. That's me. Again, I'm back to shooting from the hip. Again, I think we saw this family, I think, on another shot. I think thinking back they were on another shot, but they were a little bit separated, you know, walking across the crossing. That's my demeanour when I'm forced to go shopping. Even when we're on holiday and we're looking for more souvenirs and more fridge magnets, that's my demeanour. I'm quite glad I got my camera to hang around and pass the time while other people are doing all that shopping. Again, another couple here. You know, who's he texting? Could be a good caption, couldn't it, that? Who's he texting? She's clearly having a good look to see what he's up to. You can't beat a good bit of trust, can you? 4 or 5 young girls just sitting, hanging about, waiting for what? I don't know. But again, mobile phone. Never far from a mobile phone, House of Barber. So, you know, just a bit of shooting from the hip again. Back into my comfort zone. More mobile phones. It's amazing, isn't it? This year, the last 18 months, I've been to Amsterdam, New York, Rome, Ireland, Liverpool a lot. And everybody's the same everywhere. They all got the same problems, all got the same issues, same worries, same concerns, same living their life in fear and stress, and all totally locked into their mobile phones. Even the people you think wouldn't perhaps be, they are at some point. The phone appears, and I'm as guilty as the next person of that. But I think that's the plan, was to get people to do that, and it's worked. And it's a great. It used to be that you'd only get the fear factor with a letter through your post box or watching the telly. Now you've got a 24-hour fear factor attached to your hand, haven't you? It's there all the time. Bing, bad news, fear. Bing, bad news, fear. Bing, bad news, fear. Next step will be a chip. You heard it here first. Again, strangely enough, another phone. So, one with that phone, great. But again, I think people are just interested when they're mooching about, going about the daily business. Nice scarf, actually, that. Phone, didn't take long, did it? But, the Irish were great, interesting characters like this lady. I thought she was flagging me off at first, but she wasn't. She was making gestures. So, yeah, the weather turned to go a bit. It was nice to be back, and it was nice to be to show my folks around where I lived, and it hadn't changed that much. Some things have changed, but generally speaking, it was still as lovely as it ever was. And then once we'd spent the night in Galway in city, we decided we drove big drive, 300 miles or so, to Donegal the next day. But before we went there, father-in-law's favourite films, one of them was The Quiet Man, John Wayne, from the 50s, 1952 I think it was. So I knew where it was, having lived in Ireland, and so we went and had a look at it on the way, and it was everything that me and Kirsty had watched The Quiet Man before we went, because she'd never seen it, and it's a funny film, and it's of its time, and the woke generation will hate it because they will. But it's a brilliant film, really well shot, made. I mean, the colour in it, the from a photography perspective, just beautifully shot. Apart from the bits where John Wayne sits on this bridge when he first arrives back in Innisfree, the make-believe town where he's from. But the close-ups are shot in a studio. It's so obvious that it's in the studio. But other than that, the cinematography, and it was one of the first uses, I think it was called stereo colour in film, and it's beautiful. It is beautifully shot, and it's funny, and it's of its time. But just seeing the bridge and seeing my father-in-law, get involved with it, and his dad loved it and was from Ireland. It was just a nice link up. And luckily for us, I mean, the weather wasn't beautiful, but it was moody. So I think it allows you to kind of to get a bit more of a feel for a place when there's something there other than just sunlight. When you've got sunlight and showers and you've got shadows, the leaves have fell off the trees because it's autumn. That kind of thing is it's much more conducive to interesting photographs than just a beautifully lit bridge. And again, it allowed me to make some nice mono conversions, highlighting the highlights and shadows. And to some people, it's just a bridge. Well, it's a bridge in Ireland, but because I knew my father-in-law's connection to it, it made it a little bit more special. And I think we went up to a town called Cong afterwards, and Cong is where the rest of the film's shot. It's based in there, and all the kind of stuff that's in the film's still there. It's just a really nice day of linking that stuff, and photography is all about memory, isn't it? I mean, Roland Barthes and all the other, philosophers and theorists say that photography is about death. Photography is about death. Everybody in that photo's dead. But it's more than that. It's memories. It connects, doesn't it? And I mean, people say that about film, about music, about sounds, about art. But I think seeing a photograph, when you see a photograph of a place you can't get to anymore, or of somebody that's no longer with us, or just some memory from childhood, you'll struggle to beat photography as a medium to connect. I think it beats music, it beats moving image, it beats smells, it's just everything's there. And I remember taking that picture, and I can remember being there, how it felt. I can remember the atmosphere in the air. I can remember the smiles on my in-laws' faces, and me and Kirsty were just loving it. And it's a recent memory. So in 10 years' time, hopefully, if I'm still kicking about, that'll be a great thing to look back on. For me, it's always about kind of getting the moment and making sure it's technically decent, which I think it is, that picture. But it's more than that, isn't it? It's a connection. It's the connection to a few different versions. And the in-laws, and just the surrounding areas were great. And Quiet Man Bridge, I mean, there's only humans could do that, aren't they? A film that was shot there 70 years ago, still got a plaque up telling you what it was and what it was all about. And again, it's photography, and it's the photo of him sat there on the bridge which is the studio shot, full enough. It's not actually on the bridge. Oh, it might have been actually. It might be an outtake, I don't know. But when you see that scene in the film, it's in the studio. And the rainbow appeared. I don't believe in coincidence, but what you read into that, I don't know. What you can make of that, I don't know. So these were all shot on the Canon R6, and we drove from there to Cong, the next village, and then up onto Donegal, and just the views and the scenes on the way up. I mean, this little hill was great. There's actually a lake between this hump here and the background there. There's a lake, but I couldn't get up high enough to see it. But still, the little village of Cong. And then, quiet man. And, I generally hate pictures like that, but I saw it and I took it, and I thought, it's a bit contrived, isn't it? Looks like a bloody, what they call it, painting. Or that git that used to do all the landscapes. Turner, were it him? I'm not really into that stuff, but it's as a memory. I remember seeing it thinking, oh, that's cute. We took the picture and that was it. But, again, trying to get out of my comfort zone, I guess. Taking pictures I would never usually take. I'd normally just walk past that and leave all the tourists to do it. But I did it, and let's be honest, it's a lot of shit. And then we went up to Donegal and we stayed in a town called Ramelton, where my family are from and where I lived for years. And we stayed in a lovely apartment with this view. This is a view from the window, and that boat, I don't remember that boat being there when I lived there, but it's been there a long, long time, hasn't it? And again, it makes for a nice conversion. And we just spent a few days mooching around the Donegal coast. Favourite beach ever, Knockalla Beach. But that's a place where there's a famous train derailment in the 50s, I think. It's just what's left of it. There's a little memorial thing there. This is Glenveagh National Park, and again, I stumbled across this shot just like down on the lake looking, and it was getting a bit moody, and I just thought it meant for a nice shot. I mean, it's nothing. Ansel Adams is not going to lose any sleep over it, but I think just happening across a shot like that, not out of my comfort zone. It's not a comfort zone thing. It's just I saw it, took the picture, tried to expose it, so I got it nice and moody. I've manipulated it a little bit in Photoshop. I've brought out the highlights a little bit and hid some shadows, which is my kind of like trademark thing to do. But I think it's a beautiful picture, and I'm quite happy with that. And I'm going to get a print of it, I think, for the house and get it stuck up on the wall in the house, because it's a nice memory to have of our little escapade around County Donegal. Again, back to the town we stayed in. A little bit of voyeurism out the window. And then the final leg of the trip, the last day, we went to Northern Ireland, and we tried to get in some Game of Thrones kind of locations, because all four of us are massive fans of Game of Thrones, so it just made sense that while we're there to look for some, and so we found some. This is a little place which the name of which escapes me currently, where was used in some scenes as one of the castles, Dragonstone, and you can see some scenes from the show shot there. Different angles again. Yeah, it's cold and bitter. It was nice. This is, I think it's called Dunluce Castle again. Was used as Pike Island or Pike Castle, whatever it's called, where the Greyjoys are from. Beautiful old ruin again. Grim day, made for the pictures, didn't it? It's no good if it's beautiful sunshine. What interest do you get? Went to Giant's Causeway. I'd been there before, but Kirsty and folks aren't. We just mooched around Giant's Causeway for a bit. It's very interesting. Difficult to photograph, though, because of all the pillocks that are knocking about trying to do, like this guy here. One of the things it says, don't hang off the edge of the rocks and stuff, guys. You're going to end up hurting yourself. And there's a few like marshals kicking about, but there's always one in there. Look at me. So they get in your way a little bit, so you can't really get a clean shot. But I did a few kind of nice mountainous pictures while we're there. It'd be nice to have access to it when there's nobody else there, and then when you've got a moody sky, that'd be great. But it is what it is, isn't it? When you're at a tourist place, you make of it what you can. That was an interesting guy. I was coming back on the bus back up the hill, the Giant's Causeway, to get back to the car, and he was like pondering life, sat with his missus, probably wondering how he got there. And I think that's probably about it. That's another Game of Thrones location. And the last one, King's Road from Game of Thrones. Never get a shot of that because it's just tourist city. You can tell, look, it's just tourist city. So that was me coming out of my comfort zone in Ireland and not really coming out of it at all. And like I said to you at the start, I could have shot on film, could have shot on the DSLR, could have shot on the smaller mirrorless. Went for the camera that was convenient at the time. Didn't learn a great deal, I guess, other than if I'm going to go out my comfort zone, the best thing to do is lose the crutch. And I've talked about this when I talked about doing my master's degree. For the first year doing the master's degree, I was shooting it on film, but I always had a digital camera there in case. And I had to break out of that mindset, and that was a getting out of the comfort zone thing. And in the second year, I didn't shoot anything on digital. I shot it all on film. And I think it wouldn't... In doing that, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself, about my understanding of photography. And I think it might help me to do that a bit more now. Because it's all so convenient, isn't it? Digital cameras are just all so convenient. Everything is kind of there. It's convenient. You don't have to think. And I think sometimes forcing yourself to kind of like work blind, as it was, might help a little bit. And I mean, since I came back, I have done a couple of other things. I did some Christmas photos for my nieces and nephews, which were great fun. I'm not going to show you them here, but I did some commercial portraits for the local Chamber of Commerce, and again went to their place of work and did 2 or 3 photographs of each member. Just general portrait stuff, and not really out of the comfort zone, other than that I took my studio with me and did it remotely. And I probably had like about a minute or 90 seconds with each person, so the kind of like the task is to connect with that person in a small space of time. And on this occasion, it was quite easy to connect because they all came with the same kind of feeling that they hate having the picture took. Oh, I don't like it. The first thing that people were saying when they came in, oh, I hate having the picture took. And I'm like, well, I do. And that's why I'm behind the camera. And you have a little bit of banter, and it just relaxes them a little bit. And the feedback was they all loved the pictures. Even the ones who didn't want the picture took were really happy with the pictures, which is always nice to hear. But I think, again, going back to my master's degree, what I was trying to figure out there was how to become a better portrait photographer. And it turned out that it had absolutely nothing to do with how good I was with a camera or setting up or lighting or anything. It was all about connection. And I mentioned David Bailey a lot, hero of mine. His photographs are just plain white background and one light. It's the connection. It's all about the connection. And in this instance, I guess my comfort zone there is a little bit tested because I'm a people person generally, but not as much as I used to be when I was younger. I was a real people person when I was younger. Now I'm a bit older, I'm a bit more withdrawn. I like to be on my own a bit more. I'm not as, much of a conversation seeker as I used to be. But I'm still able to turn it on when I need to. And I found that just having that quick bit of banter with these people and talking to them and saying, yeah, I don't like it either. Oh, you look great. Just stand like that. Just turn a bit this way. Yeah, you look great. You connect. Puts them at ease. And although they hate having the picture taken, and tell you quite honestly they don't even want to see them as you're shooting them. We'll trust you. And then to get feedback saying, actually, we love these, Lance, thank you very much. Can you do them again for next year? And can we have some adult ones through the year? Tells me, hey, I'm still good at what I do. But also, I have got that connection and I can still connect. And the biggest piece of work for me as a photographer in a portrait sense is connection. Don't worry so much about the lighting and all that, because technically that'll take care of itself. It's getting people to feel like they want the picture taken even when they don't. And I've done a few like that recently. I did some other commercial portraits for a company who were kind of like a startup, but they're really into helping people in their business, and they wanted some kind of like business stroke jovial shots. And again, one of them loved having the picture taken, one didn't, and getting that connection to make them feel like at least these pictures will be good, whatever I do. And they did, they loved them. So, comfort zone for me in terms of portraiture moving forward is going to be more about what I shoot on as opposed to how I shoot, I think. And it might be a return to film a bit and just see if I can... There's nothing wrong with I love my portraiture. Portraiture is my favourite thing to do. But I am conscious that you can fall into the samey stuff. And I was looking back through some portraits earlier to see if I could find something that stood out a little bit to me. That I went back through my archive like 10 years or so, and I was just looking at portraits I've done then. This is from 2011. And I haven't changed a lot since then. I might have become a little bit more technically proficient in Photoshop. I might approach lighting slightly differently, but I think generally speaking, if you look at my pictures from 2009, 10 onwards to now, you can tell it's me, tell it's my work. But there's little subtleties that may have changed. But I do repeat a lot, and I know that's part of getting your theme and who you are and how you look and all. I know that's important. But I think sometimes it's a bit easy. And when it becomes easy, you become lazy and you stop pushing the envelope of how you've positioned yourself, how you've set the light, how you've just twisted that a bit, how you've connected. So I want to make sure that I don't get that word lackadaisy. People use that, I don't know what it fucking means, but you know what I mean? I don't want to get to a point where it's just so easy, it's boring. And sometimes it does feel a little bit like that. So maybe I need to strip it down. I mean, generally speaking, for portraits, use one light, two at the most if I want a rim light or side light or separate from background, but mostly one light. It's mostly about the connection. But again, I want to always feel like my portraits are fresh and new and look like I've taken them, but offer something other than just nice lighting and connection. Maybe I'm overthinking it, I don't know. But coming back to the general theme of today's podcast and comfort zoning, have a think about what your comfort zone is and how you can get out of it. And is it a case of getting new kit? Is it a case of trying an older bit of kit? Is it a case of switching the lights off and using the window? Is it a case of doing it all outside instead of inside? Take a piece of white paper around with it and stick it on a wall like Richard Avedon did in the 70s when he did his Midwest series. Just use the light that's there. And because you're looking to capture people and personalities, aren't you? Not so much beautiful lighting. So I'm going to think a bit harder about the comfort zone. I'm never going to get out of the comfort zone, I think, with street photography. I've got to live with the fact that I'm going to be a shoot from the hip, suck it up, yellow belly kind of photographer there. But in other ways, using different cameras, using different approaches, using different modifiers, whatever it is to get out of the comfort zone to try and be fresh, I'm going to carry on doing and report back periodically just to see whether I've achieved that or not. And again, I think if you look through the portraits I looked at earlier, like this one of Amy, I'm still doing that kind of stuff, and I'm still doing it as good. There's nothing wrong with it. Have I overthought it? Maybe I'm looking for a comfort zone, get out when I don't need one. But it's definitely food for thought. So keep pushing yourselves, keep trying new stuff, keep going sideways, keep looking back, keep referring to what you've done. Turn my alarm off. Keep thinking, keep pushing, keep taking those gigs that you would never have taken because they're awkward. You'll get there, you'll get through it, you'll get better. And I think that's about it from me today. I think I've waffled on long enough about my holiday and about pictures and taking them and all the comfort zone side kind of stuff. I'm going to do a little bit on astrophotography, I think, at some point soon, because I'm toying with the idea of getting some more kit to get back into doing that, because the winter this time of year is really good when you get clear skies. Well, actually, you don't always get clear skies, do you, because of the kind of spray and modification going on out there. So, and I'm going to talk a bit about Franken skies as well, which is like what we call those skies when people go, oh, beautiful sunset, you're looking, it's just chemtrails everywhere. I want to talk a little bit of that. Going to get into drones and UFOs a little bit as well on an upcoming show, and really I want to tie all that in together and look back at the year and see have I progressed as a photographer, have I learned anything from the podcast and from doing shoots. So that'll be coming up soon. So I've got a bit of time off over Christmas, so I'll get another couple of podcasts out before the end of the year. But thanks for listening to this one. Keep shooting. All right, enjoy.